It's one thing for journalists to be approached by sources who leak secret information from inside the government. Like, it's one thing if someone who works at the White House decides to contact a journalist to give them an inside tip. But it's a whole other thing for the journalist to seek out the government workers to leak information, to say, hey, give me a juicy scoop even though you're not supposed to. But that's exactly what the New York Times did and has been doing, according to a recent report from Breitbart. They obtained emails from a reporter at the New York Times, sent to a government employee asking them to become leakers, to collude with the New York Times against their boss, the president. Coral Davenport covers energy and environmental policy for the New York Times. And she wrote an email to John J. O'Grady, who is actually the president of the government union who represents EPA workers. And Davenport did not mince words as to what she was looking for. She actually wrote, "I'm working on a story looking for unusual secretary at the EPA." Then she writes, "I'm looking for things like information communicated verbally when it's usually put in writing. Or people told not to bring phones to meetings. Or officials using devices that aren't official government property." She was looking for that kind of thing. In other words, Davenport was saying, hey, I have this idea for a story I want to write about how people at the EPA are being asked to hide information and how the president's administration is trying to sabotage the EPA. Even though Davenport did not have any of this proof, she knew that that was the story she wanted to do. So she asked a government worker to become a leaker and to find other leakers who would back up the story that she had made up in her head. This is not how journalism is supposed to work, people. You're not supposed to have a very specific angle in your head before you have the information, which makes it all the more worse that the New York Times actually responded to Breitbart by saying, there's nothing abnormal about Davenport's request, and that's the normal process for gathering facts. So, if you're wondering why all these people in the White House keep leaking information, maybe it's not because they're mad at their jobs or their boss, maybe it's because the New York Times keeps hounding them, and the prospect of getting their 15 minutes of fame is just too juicy to resist.